Welcome to the Encouragement Engineering Podcast, where we combat the negativity that inundates our daily lives with a positive perspective and positive action. Today's guest is Micah Lawrence. Micah is a corporate management dropout turned career slash leadership slash relationship coach. He's a Gallup certified strengths coach and believer in the power of positive psychology. Micah especially enjoys working with groups and has years of experience facilitating strengths-based development workshops for teams, including working with startups, Fortune 100 companies. As a coach, Micah focuses on the intersection of helping people feel good about themselves while also seeing results in the form of real, meaningful change. So please welcome to the show, Micah Lawrence. Micah, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Bob. I love what you do with your podcast, with your show, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Well, thank you so much. And it's great. You guys are going to be in for a treat today because what Micah talks about is really good stuff, and I really think you're going to enjoy it. But before we get into that, why don't we give the audience a little bit of background about you? How did you get to where you are, where you come from, et cetera?
Yeah, well, I call myself a corporate management dropout because that's where I thought I was going to spend my entire career. I came out of my master's degree in college and went straight into a large corporation and spent the last 10 years, 11 years doing things like project management and strategic planning and business architecture. And it's interesting that during that time, probably 7 years ago or so, I was exposed to the Clifton Strengths Assessment because it was something that was kind of being passed around our organization. And slowly over the next 7 years, I started becoming an expert in that tool because I was just interested in it. I loved the idea of understanding everybody's strengths and using them to benefit the team and to work better together as a team. And without even realizing it, I gained an expertise that over time I realized I like doing this more than my full-time job. So it kind of occurred to me that maybe I should take a pause on the corporate life and start my own business. So I did. I started my own consulting and coaching business where I work with teams and individuals. And it's not, if anybody, we'll talk more about this, of course, but the Clifton Strengths tool that was developed by Gallup is just, it's like the foundation of what I use in my coaching. I start with that assessment to help get to know the people that I work with. And then we go from there to help them achieve their goals and things like that. So really, it was just my corporate background ended up being the means to the end for where I am today. It just kind of put me in this path that led me to doing coaching like this.
I find it always interesting when we get those gifts, if you will, through life that, hey, here's something, and all of a sudden you're off in a different tangent. And I took the Strength Finders as well, and we'll talk about that a little bit because it's so interesting. In 20 minutes, maybe 20 minutes overview of these questions you ask.
Yeah,
it gets into such fine detail. And if we can, let's go into that a little bit because let's tell people a little bit about that strength-based development, if you would. If you can give us a little more detail.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The things we've talked about.
That's great. And well, then, so I bet a lot of people that follow you are familiar with the term positive psychology, because it's just it's the kind of listener that I think you would appeal to. But positive psychology is that focus on what's good about people and looking for possibility rather than looking for obstacles and what's wrong. And this is very much, strength psychology is very much a part of positive psychology. And it started years and years ago. The man who is considered the father of strength psychology was Don Clifton. And that's where the name of the Clifton Strengths Assessment or the Strengths Finder assessment comes from. But he lived at a time where he was looking for research to do as a psychologist, wanted to study what made people successful. And as he looked around at his peers and the other research that had been done at the time, all he could find was what they called deficiency-based development. And it's still very prevalent today, where you look at what your weaknesses are and you look at what's wrong with you and you try to fix those things. It's like, oh, well, I stink at this. Yeah. So I'm going to focus all of my attention and all of my development on not being so bad at this thing that's hindering my progress. Yeah. And what he said, and he's kind of coined the phrase, wouldn't it be great if we focused on what's right with people instead of what's wrong with them? And it was this big moment for him where he thought, I don't care about people's weaknesses. I mean, we should know what our weaknesses are, and we should develop them enough that they're not like getting us in trouble or getting in the way.
Right.
But we should spend most of our time and attention on developing our strengths, things that we're already strong at, so that we can become world class at those things instead of just working on our weaknesses and trying to become well-rounded. Like, people aren't made to be well-rounded. We're meant to be jagged and rigid. We're like a star. We're good at some things and we're bad at others. But when we work well with other people, we come together, and as a group, we can be well-rounded. But as individuals, we're unique, and we don't need to be well-rounded.
Right. And it's interesting you say that, because so many times people say, oh, well, you want a well-rounded education. That's great. But how many of us, once we get to it, if you will, adult life, get out of school, we realize, okay, maybe I don't like accounting, and then I'm not going to be an accountant, but I can hire one to do my taxes at the end of the year. Okay. Yeah. Or, a financial planner can help you. You understand money, but you're not that proficient at it because you're doing other things. And I think that's what's interesting with the strengths, because it does help us focus on those things that we're already good at. It's like, if you like to run, you're going to start doing 5Ks, and then you're going to be doing 10Ks, and then you're going to be doing a marathon. It's something you like to do. Why not do what you like? Why not do what you're good and proficient at? It makes you smile, and it makes you enjoy your day.
Well, and it's also that the amount of, or like the level of competency that you can achieve in something that already came naturally to you is so much greater than if you were to spend time and attention on something that doesn't come naturally to you. If you're at a level 3 out of 10 in an area that doesn't come naturally to you, you could put an awful lot of time and attention into something just to get to a 4. When if you were to focus on something where you're already a 7, you could put that much attention into getting you into the 9 or the 10 area. And it's like, if we can invest in what we're already good at, not only are we more likely to be successful, but we're probably going to love it too. Like you said, running, if you're good at running, you're probably going to enjoy it more. And that's the same for careers and even at home, like in parenting or relationships. Lean into what you're good at, and you're likely to be successful and enjoy it.
Yeah. And that's a great point. If we can, why don't we go into, I've done the Strength Finder before, and we talked about this a little bit. Let's go into what my strengths were, so our audience can get a good idea of,
love it,
what it talks about. Because I took this, it says in the Strength Finders book, there's a 20-minute survey at the back of the book when you buy the book, and you go through it and you answer these questions, and it nails down your individual strengths. And mine came out as futuristic, arranger, focus, achiever, and positivity. I know that can be shocking to the audience, but positivity is one of my top 5. So if you can, let's talk about that a little bit and what you see with those.
Well, okay. So I when I meet with people for the first time, I often take 3 full hours, three sessions to go over their full report. You can actually get, so what you took from the back of the book is the same assessment that everybody takes, but out of the book, they give you your top 5 strengths. Right. You can actually go to their website, the people who created the book, Gallup, and you can get the full report, because there are 34 strengths total. So there's a pool of 34 strengths, and they showed you 5, but they still got your number 6 through 34 associated with your login, and you can upgrade to get more of those results. What I do in my coaching is we always get the full results, because your top 10 or so are what we would call your dominant strengths. These are things that come so naturally to you, you don't even have to try. And another thing that I think is helpful as we talk about yours, Bob, is that it's not always just an indicator of what you are good at. It's kind of a descriptor of the way that you think, the lens through which you see the world. Somebody with your strengths is going to perceive things differently than somebody who has your strengths at the bottom of their list.
Right.
And it kind of helps us understand. And when I do this with couples, it's always fun to note when one member of the partnership has something high and their partner has that strength low, and vice versa, because it explains why they maybe saw the world differently in certain circumstances. So as we talk about yours, I figure we could focus probably on 2 or 3 in the amount of time that we have Yeah. And just explore not just what the strengths are, but I'll look to you to share a little bit about like how have they served you in a meaningful way and in a positive way in the past. And honestly, sometimes you might have examples of how they've gotten you in trouble too. That's something that kind of it goes hand in hand with the strengths. It's something that's natural for you, which means when you use it well and in a healthy way, it serves you, it helps you. It's a positive application of strength. But sometimes these tendencies to think a certain way and to behave a certain way can also be overused or misused and get us into trouble sometimes and hinder our success. Like, let's talk about positivity first. I know this isn't your top one, but obviously it's really strong in you that this is what you do. People with high positivity it's so natural for them to see the glass is half full and to have rose-colored glasses about things. We always see the silver lining, even in a bad situation. And I joke about this because it's so consistent, but whenever I hear someone with high positivity complain, I'll hear they'll go through like, oh, and this, like, I had a terrible day today. This happened, and this happened. And then there's always a but at the end of that sentence. And the but is the silver lining. And it's always there. Oh, it was a terrible day. I got in a car accident. I lost my limbs and, my family all died. But, there's always, I'm going to see them after this life, or there's something good to see in it, or, the sun was shining. That's something that you can't break that out of somebody with positivity. They're always going to see the good in a situation. And it's a reason why a lot of people generally like to be around somebody with high positivity. So you attract other people, because who wouldn't want positivity in their life? So I'll pause there and just ask your perception of like, how well does that describe you?
Well, and it does. And what's interesting is it's not all Pollyanna. I mean, I wasn't always this way. And people say, well, you're just, it's integrated into my strength. But when I was 6 years old, I lost my mother to cancer. I lost my grandmother 2 months later. And then Christmas Day that same year, I lost my grandfather.
No way.
I mean, I learned this process because as a 6-year-old, you're going, what's going on? What happened? What, you don't know what you don't know, obviously. As I grew older, I started to understand there's value in these experiences I have. And I can distinctly remember getting dressed for my mother's funeral and the sun was coming up. But I thought to myself, but she's not here. But it taught me there's that silver lining. The world is always turning. The sun will be coming up. It's not always, going to be a cloudy, gloomy day. And things are going to happen in our life that aren't fun, that are hard. But we can get through them. This too shall pass, as Tony Robbins says.
That's right.
That's part of me, and it's something I've learned over time. So it's not something that just clicks. We all have experiences that allow us to learn these things.
Well, and I'll point out, you made a really great point. You can't expect somebody with high positivity to always be in a good mood. Oh, that's unhuman. Yes. That we're still human too. And I said we because positivity is my number 4 strength and your number 5. So I feel like we're commiserating together a little bit on this. And it's what's interesting about it is that you can't expect high positivity to always be in a good mood, but you can expect them to always have a sense that everything's going to be okay. So even when they are feeling like mood swings or depression, even you're feeling a hard time or you're going through something difficult or you're in a bad mood, there is still this, tomorrow will be better. And it's not just something we tell ourselves, it's something we believe. Right. Tomorrow will be better. And that's why you can be of benefit to people around you, because other people need that too. And you can be a source of light for other people just because of your strength.
Right. I like that.
Cool.
I like to be able to help people with that.
Yeah. Oh, and I bet you're good. I mean, you're obviously good at it. So what's interesting about this as we talk about some of your strengths is I'd like to talk about not just the good of it, but sometimes how it can get people in trouble. And I think that people with high positivity can sometimes come across, if it's not well managed, if you're not self-aware of how your positivity is coming across, there are some situations where that's not the right response.
No.
Positivity is not always the right response. You don't go walking into a funeral, buddying everybody like, hey, it's going to be okay tomorrow. Like, they lived a good life. It's fine. You got to kind of let people mourn and go through that with them, and not expect people to get over things as quickly as you might get over things. And so
that's
both sides
true.
here.
Yeah, that's very true. And there's times where I'm a morning person, so I've got energy. I'm excited in the morning, and people hate that. There's a lot of people that aren't morning.
You got to keep it to yourself.
Yeah, right. What is wrong with you? But it does give that idea that, hey, you know what? Get that cup of coffee. Come on, let's enjoy this day. Let's move forward.
Yeah.
But there's times where you've definitely got to tone it back. And there's, I've lived through many of those times where it's just like, no, don't talk to me right now. This will pass. But right now I need to go through my process. Like you said, being human, you need to go through the right process at the right time. So there's times where, it's not always, bubble gum and rainbows. But we're human and we feel things, we have emotions, and we've got to go through it at the right time. So it's just knowing the fact, though, that I have that strength and that can be a source for people to help people with. I think that's a great advantage too.
You got it. And that's exactly the conversation I have with people when I'm doing this, either with individuals or with teams, is that this becomes valuable, something like this. And we've only talked about one so far, because it's providing a language to explain certain thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that you may have already known about yourself or seen in other people, and not realized that you needed words to describe it. And now all of a sudden we can say, hey, what you've seen in me, this attitude of positivity and the glass is half full and being, in a good mood in the morning while everybody else is still waking up with their coffee, those behaviors you've seen in me comes from this place or this strength called positivity. And we can understand each other better when we have a language to explain that this is where it's coming from. And you as an individual can benefit from this, and teams can benefit from this when you're self-aware, when you realize this is why I might be behaving that way or thinking or seeing the world this way is because of my positivity strength. And then your self-awareness helps you have more control over when you apply it and to what extent you apply it. Maybe I'm going to lean into my positivity today because everybody needs a boost. But maybe today it's like things are rough and I'm going to dial back my positivity to give people some space to get over something hard that they're going through,
Definitely.
Very cool. Should we talk about another one?
Let's do it.
Okay, I'm going to hop up to your number one, futuristic. Okay. The fact that this came number one for you means it must be pretty stinking strong. So I'm curious what this is one of those strengths. So they actually take the 34 strengths from the assessment and they group them into 4 different categories so that we can understand why they might sit in different kind of regions or domains. And the futuristic strength falls under the strategic thinking category. So what's interesting about this is that it may not be as observable in your behavior, but it's definitely in the way that you think. And so it might come out in the way that you talk sometimes too. So people with high futuristic are living in the future. They love to think about the way things could be. And they have a vivid imagination for this is the way that things are going to be in the future. And the time frame is different for everybody with futuristic. It might be like 6 months for some people, and it might be 10 or 20 years for others. And even maybe the scope of the topic might be different for some people with futuristic. They love thinking about technology. Where's technology going? Where's it going to be 5 or 10 years down the road? And for other people, it's like social. What are people going to be like down the road? What books are going to be written? What's the world going to look like? So it's this vivid imagination or this vivid vision of what might be in the future, and not just the ability to see a vision of the future, but also an enjoyment in what I can't help but call daydreaming. Like you can kind of get sucked into a daydream and think, man, that is going to be so cool. All right. So what does that look like for you, Bob?
Well, as you're saying that, it reminds me of when I finished college, as we all do, we finished college and we're burned out from reading. I didn't want to read another book if you paid me. And I got this one book I ordered through the mail at the time. There was no internet, and I got a flyer in the mail. I thought, this looks good. And it was a book about money saving strategies from James Stower. He was the founder of American Century Funds.
Cool.
It's about, how does that long-term investment work? That's that futuristic piece that I love. When I got to see that actual, here's how this can work, and here's what can happen in a year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years, and what you can grow and that opportunity you can have. Wow. I mean, I read that whole book
Yeah.
that night. I didn't stop until like 2 a.m. It was just, I
Yeah.
just kept going at it. It was so exciting. But being the youngest of my family, I also got to see that played out in life. My dad was 47 when I was born. So I saw what
Huh.
most people my age didn't see. It was a different generation that raised me. And I got to see that hard work, that ethics, the different values, and see what the value of that would bring me in the future. And so I got
That's
to
cool.
experience that firsthand in life of, these different values that most people don't look at past 20 years. Well, I already had 40 years ahead of me, if you will, with my father
Right.
showing me his experiences and what they went through and what that can bring you. And so I was around, my aunts and uncles were older. Their kids were 16 and older by the time I was born, so I got to see all this different older things, if you will, futuristic at the time for
Yeah.
me, of what possibilities were. And I think that's,
Cool.
the experience in that in life really helps you to solidify that idea.
Yeah.
So it was a daydream, it was a living daydream, if you will, of different things that could occur in life.
So what do you dream about today? I imagine a lot of it's associated with your business. Like you probably have an idea of where you want your business to be in 5 or 10 years that other business owners wouldn't even think about. They'd be like, what, 5, 10 years? I'm working on year 1.
Yeah.
So like, what do you dream about today?
Well, and that's the thing. It's like the possibility. That's what I look at. It's a possibility. I don't look at the tasks that need to be done. You'll get those done. But what's that long-term objective? What are we looking at for that future growth, that ideal scenario in the future? And I help people coach this in their life too, as well. What are you doing today? What's your ideal life in 10, 20 years? And I worked with a client, and he was ready to hang up his business, and helped him to refocus his priorities so that he doubled his income in his business in a year. And then he doubled it again the next year. And then the next year doubled it again. I mean,
Nice.
He's had some very good years of business growth, but it's how are you looking at things? We can't look at, yes, we have to look at it, and we will, because when you walk down the street, do you watch your feet? No. You look down the street where you're going to go. So why are we watching each individual step?
So I've got to point out here, like, this is a great, for some people listening, they're going to hear you say that, and it's going to be like mind blowing. Like, yes, I don't think that way.
Yeah.
And that's because when it comes to these strengths, the research that went into these strengths is so good and so spot on, the way that they created this assessment, that oftentimes people will see their results, they'll read through their top strengths, and sometimes they're like not impressed. They're like, well, yeah, this is the way that I think, but isn't that how everybody thinks? No, not at all. Like, to you, it makes perfect sense. Like, logically, we've got to be thinking about where we're going to go. And your example of like walking down the street, you don't look at your feet, but there are going to be people that are listening that are very much today people. I've got to get these things done today, and I've got to check stuff off my list. And to have thought in the future a couple of years just doesn't come naturally to them. And that's where some of the value of this comes from, is we recognize people are different. We see the world differently. And if we look to others to partner with us or hire a coach to help us see what we don't see, we can get the advantage of diversity and diverse thinking by truly recognizing that what comes naturally to me won't come naturally to someone else, and what comes naturally to them won't come naturally to me. Yeah. It looked like you had a thought.
Well, it's interesting because you say that, and like right now, you might, in corporate environments, you're used to that too. You may come mid-year reviews. How are you helping people realize, okay, you have strengths? And when we're doing these mid-year reviews, people say, okay, here are the things I do. That's looking at your feet.
Yeah.
You want them to look out. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? How are you inputting your information into your mid-year or final year review so that people can see where you want to be in 2 years, a year, 3 years? What are those strengths you have that you can explain and show the things that will get you where you want to go? So,
They're not.
yeah.
they're not doing that. So with all of the people I've worked with, you nailed two things that I don't think are happening. So as you have leaders who are in this situation in their corporate environment, they're going to have to kind of go against the grain if they want to do things differently in a more healthy way. And you nailed both of them. One is a focus on strengths,
right?
And that's not the way the corporate world works. Most development plans that we work on with our leaders and leaders work on with their employees is deficiency based. What do you stink at, and what's a weakness? Where do I feel like you need to be more well-rounded? And we're going to forget everything else, and I'm going to pay for training only on those things that you're bad at, instead of looking for, hey, look, you are a killer presenter, and you do a really good job. And while most leaders are going to say, oh, you're good enough, let's not develop that, a leader who's focused on strengths is going to say, we're going to make you the best. Like, you're going to be the presenter of this team, and I'm going to invest in you to go speak at conferences or to be in Toastmasters or something like that, so that you can go from good to great, rather than just staying at good while we focus on your weaknesses. So a lot of people are not doing that. We still make development plans in the workforce that's focused on weaknesses. And then the other thing you mentioned is forward thinking. A lot of our performance reviews in the corporate environment are backward looking.
Yeah.
Oh, how did you do this last quarter?
Yeah.
And how am I going to score you on that? And you better do better. Good luck.
Yeah.
But thinking multiple career path ahead of you and multiple quarters ahead is something that people really struggle with. You nailed it.
Yeah. And it's a shame, because most people that are in these corporate environments, they do want that track to grow forward. They want to, move on. They want to get that experience of growth and show people that value they have. And when you don't get that, don't get that ability or that opportunity to show that, that's where people get frustrated. And that's where you're going to see them start to leave organizations.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up on futuristic, the benefit of futuristic that you have to offer people, that you probably, I think you've learned this about yourself, but other people with futuristic may have never heard this language to describe that strength, is that you can see things that other people can't. You see a future of possibility and potential that other people are kind of heads down and may not see. And you can share that with them. You can be an inspiring voice and help people see the possibility, not just in your life, but in their life, if you vocalize what you're seeing and help them see it too. One of the negatives that sometimes comes with futuristic is that you can be so much about the future that you have a hard time stopping to enjoy the present. And being present with people and in your life and being content and appreciating the way things are can be something you may have to work harder to be deliberate at, rather than always having your mind, relax for a minute, chill for a minute, enjoy this moment. The future will happen no matter what, and we'll get there later, but pause for a minute. Do you say that? You smile, you're smiling like this happens to you sometimes?
Yeah, I'll go out in the backyard in the morning, have a cup of coffee, and just be looking at things, and then the mind starts going, I need to trim that tree. Oh, this has got to be done. This has got to be done. Like, would you just stop and enjoy the birds singing, But yeah, you definitely got to remember to take the moment. We have a gift of today. Let's live that now. Okay, our strengths are going to be there. They're going to carry us through a lot of stuff, but enjoy what we have right now. And that is a futuristic trait. That's hard sometimes to balance it, like you said.
You got to be deliberate about it, for sure.
Oh, you do. Yeah, you definitely do. So.
Well, let's talk about one more. You actually you gave a great segue to your number 4 strength, called achiever. Okay. And this is almost like your futuristic and achiever are almost like both of them contribute to that inability to pause and enjoy the moment. So achiever is actually the number 1 most common strength in the United States. Okay. And it's this love of productivity, this love of getting stuff done. And achievers are known for having their checklist. They love to have a list of things to go down. And the reward of checking something off their list and looking back at the end of the day and seeing all these things that I did today, that's so rewarding for an achiever. It drives them every day to start over. Like, that you don't build on yesterday. Today's a new day, and I've got to get stuff done. So there's always a list. There's always things to do. and you're ready to move on to the next thing once you've gotten the last thing done. So people with high achiever tend to have great stamina. They work hard. They can start early in the morning, and because they love that feeling of productivity, they can work late into the night. And you can imagine in a workplace or at home, you get a lot of stuff done. That's really valued when you have achievers. The challenge can be that sometimes you don't stop and celebrate success. You get to the top of a mountain, and instead of looking down and appreciating the view, you're just looking for the next mountain. Like, now what do I climb? And moving on to that next challenge is enjoyable for an achiever because it's something else I get to check off my list. So when you said you sit on the back porch and you see all these things that need to get done, or have a vision of like the future that you want or what your yard could look like, and these are the things that I need to do to get there, to make that future possible, of course it's going to be challenging sometimes to sit still and enjoy the moment. So you've kind of got two going against you there, but you must be just a crazy productive person. No?
I can be, and like you said, that piece of relaxing is when I relax. Even at that, it's like, even on vacation, you want to do stuff. You want to have that fun, that adventure.
You're multitasking. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. You are, but you gotta learn to just chill and take that time. And I always look at it this way. People say, "Oh, I'm so tired." And when do you ever sleep? You get enough sleep when you're dead. Why worry about it now?
Sleep's a nuisance.
Yeah, exactly. It just gets in the way. No.
Yep. You would be surprised how many people I hear that from who have achiever, that they don't sleep because they lay in bed and it's late. They're thinking about all the things that they didn't get done today. And if it takes them a while to fall asleep, they'll sit there and be like, well, I'm not sleeping anyway. I might as well get up and check a few more things off my list. So they hate sleep. Sleep is a nuisance. And they even just your comment about even on vacation, every day, it feels good to get stuff done. And so people who have low achiever, when they know someone or especially live with someone who has high achiever, and they see their achiever just constantly getting stuff done, sometimes they feel like, do I need to be working as hard as they are? And they often want to force their achiever to slow down and like, come relax with me for a little bit. And they don't realize that your achiever spouse or partner or family member, they like it. Yeah. To you, it looks like a lot of work. And you're like, oh, slow down, come relax with me. But to them, it's like, no, this is fun. I love getting stuff done. This feels good to me.
Yeah, and it's invigorating. It keeps you moving. That's what I like. I'd rather be living in Florida. It's hot outside, but I'd rather be outside rather than inside. I mean, the air conditioning feels good when you come inside and you're drained, but most part, I like to be outside. I just invigorating for me.
Oh, I love that. Well, and you can see how, as we talk about this, and especially as you talk about what these look like for you, there's kind of a process that I feel like people need to go through in order to make this useful. And the first is just taking the assessment and reading the textbook definition. This is how Gallup defines each of these strengths that are in my top strengths. But then it takes a little bit of time, weeks and months, to just become more self-aware of what that strength looks like for you, because you're an individual, you're unique, and the strengths as they are defined by the textbook aren't going to look exactly the same way in you. You have achiever, just like a lot of other people do, but you also have, your achiever is going to have a flavor of futuristic and a flavor of positivity that's going to make your achiever different from the other people who have achiever. And so learning yourself and becoming aware of what your strengths look like for you is an important step before you can hit this point where you know yourself well enough, you know your strengths well enough, that you start to notice when your strength may be leading you instead of the other way around, you leading your strengths. And it might be controlling you instead of you controlling your strengths. And once you start noticing that, that's gold. That puts control in your hands and choice in your hands. You can choose. In fact, Bob, like I want to know if you notice this. At some point, you're going to be getting crap done. You're going to want to check stuff off your list, and you're going to notice, like, my family's sitting around right now and there's some bonding going on. And I just need to stay here. Like, my achiever wants so badly to go check a couple things off my list, but I see what's happening here, and I'm going to suppress my achiever for a few minutes, and I'm going to let this moment happen as a family because I'm in control and the achieving can wait. Relationships now, tasks and productivity later.
Definitely. I mean, you see that as my youngest has just graduated. You see that where it's like, okay, I got to take advantage of these time because it's going to shift and life will continue on and things will be different. And I'd like that opportunity in front of me. So you got to take the minute and, take that time where we're building that relationship where it's right in front of us. Definitely.
Yeah, I love that.
Right. Well, Micah, this has been, just so great. And I want people to find out more about what you do. Where can they find out, more about you, your website? Tell us about that so we make sure we get that in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. My website is just my first and last name.com. You'll have to look, if you're listening to this, you'll have to look it up because both of my names people get wrong all the time. So it's Micah Lawrence, but MICAHLORENC.com. I'm really active on LinkedIn too. So I love connecting with people on LinkedIn and would be happy to hear from anybody who has questions about how this works and what the first steps would need to be, or how to engage me either as for individual coaching. I do a lot of couples coaching, which I love, or team development workshops using the Clifton Strengths is one of my favorite things to do.
And that's great. So if you have any of those desires, make sure you look up Micah and check out his information. This material is good for anything, whether it's corporate work life, individual life, like you said, relationships. It's really enlightening. Go get Strength Finders, check it out. Read the book, take the test, it's not a test, but I think it is.
Just it's an assessment, a self-assessment.
Yeah, self-assessment. Yeah. Take the assessment.
There are no wrong answers.
Exactly. And it's so interesting how you have to answer each question within 20 seconds, I believe. And it really gets your subconscious mind answering those questions. So it's not an idea that you have to think about and you can try to sway the answers. It's a true answer about you and your strength. So check that out. So Micah, I want to thank you for your time today. This has been so interesting. I definitely want to have you back on the show. So thanks for being a guest on the Encouragement Engineering podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob. It was really my pleasure.
Thanks. I appreciate it.